I feel really lucky that we've got all these steps in place to help us through this next stage. After I came back from the QBA State Conference, I spoke to you about putting together a plan that we wanted to have something tangible that we could talk to for when we start seeing Varroa in our hives, and a bit of a plan so we know what we want to do. So Lynn's been really working hard on that with her team, and I'm going to hand it over to her to speak to that, and I'll pop that slide up for you now to Lynn, the legend, Holm, it says. Yeah.
Hi everyone, did everyone get one of these handouts I was handing out today? I hope you did. So basically, we're trying to make it simple, and with the mentors, in our mentors team we have David and Ron and Tom and Tony and Evan and Albie. We're all trying to work together. So I presume I'm going to get a lot of phone calls because my name is on the website, on the Google search and on the website. And we want to know how, we're trying to figure out how to tell everyone what to do, not to panic. So this little handout I've given you is basically what we've got to say. So we're really trying to tell everyone you must test every 4 weeks. It's really important. It's at Doonan at the moment. And if you find any Varroa mites, most importantly, you report it to B123, and you go and ring the biosecurity, or ring me, or email, or ring any of those ones on the report Varroa. So if you've got a chance, you can see on this list varroa.org.au. Go on there. There's so much information in there. And the other little handout I gave you about the Varroa mites, that was on Be Aware, but it tells you about the life cycle of the Varroa. So you've really got to understand the life cycle of the Varroa to treat it. You've got to understand the life cycle of your hive, how it's operating. So when you do an alcohol wash, make sure there's 300 bees, half a cup from the brood frame. Shake it 3 times, 15 seconds each shake. And Tonya was telling us the video, like a washing machine, leave it for a little while, go back again, just make sure you do give it a really good shake. The next page is telling you, so when you get a few mites found 1 to 5 mites, we sort of suggest you try mechanical tools, which is the drone trapping, the drone uncapping, splitting the hives, all different things like that, queen isolation cages, just to help. And then if it's really bad, well then you go on down the chemical line. When you get to the chemical line, then we will ask a mentor, and they will tell you they suggest what you should do. You don't have to do it, what you should suggest. You see that on the 3rd page I've got a Queensland treatment scenario. That was done by some beekeepers around Kilcoy. If you look through it carefully, it takes a bit of reading. You don't have to do all this, but it just gives you an idea of what people do. The 4th page tells you a little bit about the chemicals, so that some chemicals you can only use once a year or twice a year. But we're here to answer your questions. The last one is a little chart that you can make up yourself with the temperatures in your area and your honey flow to sort of, it's a lot to get your mind around, but it's sort of to help you regulate. Where's Katie? Oh, there you are. One of the mechanical tools we were talking about is this queen isolation cage, which you put in there. You put the queen in there to have what they call a brood break. So that's one of the tools we're using, as well as the green drone frames. But I like to write things down, but I'm not the knowledgeable person around here. So I'll now hand it over to John, and he can explain a little bit more. But it's mechanical breaks that we're going to try first before we smash it with the chemicals. I've probably said the wrong thing and I'm in trouble, I'm sorry. But do have a good read of that. There's a lot of information there. Sort it out yourself, get your head around it, and if you've got any questions, ring me. I can give you one of our mentors that you can talk to them, and ask us for information. We're here to help you out. So has anyone got any questions about the thing that they've read and they're asking, ready to ask? Yes? Okay, I'll let John organise. This is one of these drone frames. This is the mechanical thing. It's bigger area that they'll lay drone cells in, and then John will explain that to you. Hi, Kylie.
Hi everyone. Last night I melted down some wax and I got a cheap mini roller from Mitre 10 about that wide, and just rolled some melted wax onto the frame to give the bees a bit of a start.
So that's to prepare it when you're putting it in the and John will tell you where you put it in the brood.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me now? I don't want to swallow it. Well, Lynn has just given you a summary of what I was going to say. I just might fill in a few gaps. There's certainly been new incursions in the last 2 or 3 weeks. Around Doonan and west of Mullaney, there's an incursion about 10 days ago. So we're all amongst it now. It's far more important now that you test your hives for Varroa. The earlier you detect it, the greater the chance of you saving your hives. So at the moment it's every 4 weeks. But if you find a mite below treatment threshold, mites below treatment threshold, which at present is 5, so if you're 4 mites or less, you might consider repeating the alcohol wash in 2 or 3 weeks. Admittedly, the incursions that have occurred have been pretty light. Most of them are just a single incursion in that 10 kilometre square that you see on the surveillance map. But once it's in the region, natural spread will occur and could occur quickly. This was the experience in the Lockyer Valley, where the subsequent infestations have a greater chance of producing quite high mite loads. Now, so when it comes to treatment, that's one of the factors that will need to be taken into account is the mite load. How many mentors? We've got about 6 or 8 mentors you can call upon for assistance. They are mentors who will provide you with guidance and talk you through it, but the mentors won't be doing it for you, but they'll give as much guidance as is necessary for your circumstances. So don't forget as well, the videos are still around. They'll be around till the end of the year now, with extra funding being sought. They're going to be very busy, so you may need to wait for a VDO. So that's the reason the club has decided to educate some people to be mentors and provide assistance to you. So the threshold is still at the moment 5 mites. 5 mites and above is you should treat the hive. We're not going to. There's no way we can, in advance, tell you how you should be treating. Treatment depends on not just the circumstances of the beekeepers' procedures and the type of beekeeping that they do, or the scale of their beekeeping. It also depends on the environment of the apiary and the development phase of the colony at the time. In the past, you may not recall, but there are graphs of bee population and mite population over the 12-month period. Well, the treatment will be determined somewhat by the stage your colony is at in that period. on the graph. So it's not a matter of us telling you now what to do. It'll be a matter of determining case by case basis. So we'll talk you through it. Some of you may have enough knowledge to proceed on your own. That's good. As you know, the training seminars that were held, workshops that were held throughout the year, they have ceased. Now, since that has ceased, the material has been put online. So you can go to varroa.org, which I'm hoping to bring up soon. Online, there is an online course you can do which reflects the workshops that were held, and also online you'll get a copy, download a copy of the manual that was provided at the workshop. So how many people don't have that manual? I suggest you go online and get a copy of that. It's free, but I think it's only downloadable. I don't think you get a hard copy. But the manual really tells you everything you need to know at the moment. There are some things certainly there are things you should do when you get to treatment phase. But there are things that you should be doing now. Now, the term integrated pest management, you've heard a lot in the last year or so. I'm not going to go through that now. It's a big topic. But basically, before you get to the chemical stage, there's a lot more that you can be doing, some of which you should be doing now. And that is using ventilated bases, increase or improve your management of small hive beetles, to lower the load of small hive beetle. Most hives perish through an infestation of small hive beetle, secondary to a weakened hive because of varroa. But also, a hive can be weakened by some of the treatments we have to use. One thing I will say about treatments, the chemicals, the evidence is, there are people who say they don't want to use chemicals. Well, that's fine. But the evidence from down south is if you don't use chemicals in the initial phase, the risk of losing the hive is very high. Particularly reinfestation, where with high mite loads, you need a chemical that will drop that load quickly. And there is one particular chemical that will do that for you. But this is the sort of advice that mentors can give you at the time. Other parts of integrated pest management you can do now, things like spacing your hives, don't have them filled up. Perhaps don't use double hive stands. This is to avoid drift of bees from one hive to another. Maybe put some sort of symbol on the front of the hive to make it easy for the bees to identify their own hive. If you have a substantial number of hives, consider splitting your apiary into two and separating them, having them in different areas. The reason for that is that it'll be simpler to manage a partial infestation and not have all the hives affected. Because if you've got a collection of, say, 6 hives in your apiary, or more, or less, and one hive is infested and requires treatment, you have to treat the lot. You can't treat just one hive, because the other hives will soon be infected. So if you split up your hives, keep your hives separate or have separate apiaries, you save money, because you may not have to treat all your hives at once. As Lynn said, the best site to go to is varroa.org. This doesn't quite look like the same as it does when you log in. Varroa.org will give you tells you how to do your reporting. The important thing is go to training. There you will find that there are 2 training modules on that, basic training and a more advanced training on varroa mite. It's basically a reflection of the workshops that were held. So if you've missed it, go there and go through that material, and that's where you'll get a copy of that workbook. That's another way of getting through to the heat map, which will take you. It's a link to the government website and the heat map. You're all familiar with the heat map and how to use it. The main thing is when you go into the heat map, up in the top right-hand corner, there's a couple of arrows. Press on that, and you can deselect the tests, because all the tests are recorded on the map. If you deselect the tests, what you'll have left is the incursions. Exiting the industry, some beekeepers will find it a little overwhelming. If any of you or anyone you know is considering getting rid of their hives, it's probably come and talk to us, and any of the mentors, we may be able to guide you through it all. Remember, it's the first 2 years that are going to be the problem. Beyond that, we go into a stabilised situation where there'll be no feral honeybees, reinfestation rates will be low, and you'll be treating routinely twice a year, almost by the calendar, as they are in New Zealand at present. So it'll be much smooth running, more smooth, and a lot easier to manage. But it's a 2-year period that we're going to go through initially. It's going to be difficult. But if people are considering, come and chat to us. We may be able to guide you through it. If you make a decision for whatever reason to sell your hives, there's nothing to be ashamed of, or no one can criticise you for it. If you feel you can't manage it, it's a good decision. Unmanaged hives are a big problem. At the last Champions meeting, it was brought to our attention that they're finding a lot of abandoned hives around the place, around southeast Queensland. People are just dumping hives in all sorts of places. Well, unmanaged hives are mite bombs, produce huge quantities of mites, and they'll just infest all the hives around the place. So there is a process to go through, and it's on that website. If you have any trouble negotiating that, get in touch with me and I can lead you, point you in the right direction. But there are a few things you must do about getting rid of your hive. You need to find, if you want to sell it, there's a few things you need to do. If you're registered, there are a few things you need to do as well. But we'll certainly guide people through that process. Consider that if you do leave, then you can always come back. Some people have, I know of people who have decided to sell their hives, get rid of them, and wait 2 or 3 years, then re-enter the industry. That's fine, but they've missed out on all that experience, and when they come back in, it's like it's going to be new. Whereas in 2 to 3 years' time, you're all going to be experts at managing varroa because you've been through it all. There was a question about trapping queens. Trapping queens is one of the mechanical components of the integrated pest management. The idea of trapping the queen is that she'll stop laying and the brood will decline and disappear. As we know, varroa mites prefer drone brood to breed in because drone brood lasts longer than worker brood, and 1 or 2 mites more are produced from each cell. So drone brood produces more mites than worker brood. So if you get rid of all the worker brood, then you can then treat. If you've got drone brood, you'll have to you'll have to take that out. But the idea is if you have a broodless hive, the mites are only on the phoretic, in the phoretic stage, meaning they're only on bees. So you can treat that with a chemical, and maybe you're trying to keep, what you need to do is try to avoid chemicals that you can only use once a year, if you can. But in a broodless situation, you have the opportunity of using a chemical such as oxalic acid vapouring, or when oxalic acid strips become available, you could use oxalic acid strips. Then you treat all the mites on all the phoretic mites on the bees, and you could reach a state where you have no mites in that hive, or very few. So the most effective way of reducing mite count or heavy mite count in a hive is to make it broodless and then treat it with a chemical. So, does that answer the question? Obviously, you're going to release the queen after, when you've done that. But it's going to weaken your hive for a while, so you have to choose when to do it. You know, it's something you probably wouldn't want to do when you're going into a honey flow or too early in spring. And you certainly wouldn't do it towards the end of the season because you need strong bee numbers going into winter. I did have a photograph I wanted to show you of a mite I saw. It's the first time I've seen a mite in a hive out of Reeseville. A healthy hive, bees were just normal healthy hive. Did the wash, and on the bottom there was one suspicious structure, apart from a bit of debris. It had an oval, you could detect an oval shape, and the detector had a reddy brown colour, but nothing else, it was too small. Took a photograph of it, blew the photograph up, and then you could see all the legs. Typical of a mite, just like all the photographs you see of mites. So there was only one in the wash. But that's an infestation. We don't know how many are in the hive, but obviously the percentage is very low, and it doesn't warrant treatment. So it's a good idea to have a magnifying glass or take a photograph. It doesn't, that experience doesn't equate with these photographs we see taken of the bottom of an alcohol wash bottle, where you can see all these mites. It didn't look like that at all. It seemed to be smaller. I just don't know whether they, I guess some of those photographs are magnified a touch. But if you're suspicious, then take a photograph or have a magnifying glass, have a look at it. I don't know much about the use of plastic frames. I don't use them. But if this is drone frame because of the size of the cells. And I think you've got to paint it with wax before you put it in the hive. You just don't paint that in the hive. The alternative is to use drone foundation, to just put it in a regular frame and then put that in the hive. Now, the reason for this is that you're going to trap a lot of varroa mite in all those drone cells, a huge amount. But the timing is critical. If you leave them there too long, all these mites will hatch. You'll have a massive infestation. It becomes a mite bomb. So, but it does, when it's time to pull it out, you'll be pulling out, you'll reduce the mite load in the hive a heck of a lot. Yes?
John, do you know if we're getting the wax foundation drone?
We plan to, I don't know if we...
Yeah.
We are.
Yes.
We talked about it at our last committee meeting, and so we had a list of them for researching to get them. So that is the plan.
Once you pull it out of the hive, you put it in the freezer and kill them all.
What part of the hive do you put that into the winter? What part of it in the box?
Was it brood?
In the middle of the,
Yeah.
edge of
Probably two.
Towards the... Yeah, not right out on the edge, a couple in there. Freeze it to kill them. You'll notice around the margins there's all these little tiny cells. some people are critical of this frame because they're a good site for small hive beetle. So you can use an ordinary frame and just put drone foundation on it. And we'll let you know when we've got it.
The question was when do you put that in, when you take it out, how long does it stay for? So the idea is that the workers would peel the comb off that, so that the cells are drone, so then the queen lays in there, and then all the mites are drawn to it. So when that's fully capped, you just keep an eye on your hive and pop that into the freezer.
Tonya recommended putting a frame in the honey super and let the bees already fill it out so that you've got a full foundation.
Yeah.
Put that in and then you've got 3 weeks to get it out.
Yeah, I forgot to say that earlier. I put my green frames in my supers this morning so that the bees can draw it out. So it's ready.
The advantage of that is that you have a uniform sheet of drone cells when you put it in the brood box. So hopefully you'll have a fairly, you're likely to catch more drones or more mites on the frame before you have to pull it out, because they'll all be going together. You don't want to have a drone frame sort of half drawn out and those well ahead of other cells, so that you have drones wanting to hatch too early. You want to sort of try and get them all. You want to have a period when you're pulling it out. Most of the frame is full of larvae, drone larvae with mites. It's more efficient. So that's why putting in the super first is a good idea to draw in.
Am I right in understanding that, I'll just have a quick scan of the handout here, that you can't actually treat the hive with chemical over about 30 degrees, if the air temperature is about 30 degrees.
Depends on the chemical. Yeah. That's not the case with the synthetics. It is the case with 1 or 2 of the organics.
Well, say in Queensland, I mean, it's okay in South Australia or Victoria, that they would have a longer period of time when they're able to chemically treat the hive. But in Queensland, I think that would restrict us significantly, I would have thought.
Well, it'll be something you need to take into account.
Yeah.
This sheet, which is a treatment plan, now that's been filled in as just an example. It's very confusing, and I'll have to admit I have some difficulty with it, because you're supposed to go ahead and write down average temperatures of the year and other things about weather. When you've got drone brood present, what the state of the worker brood is, it's very difficult to predict that, particularly if you've got hives that are all at different stages and different strengths. But it's a worthwhile exercise studying this on varroa.org, where there is a module explaining how to use it, because it gets you thinking about the sorts of things you need to do and the sorts of restrictions there might be. It gives you some insight into what you need to be doing in it. It's a worthwhile exercise. Any other points? Oh, sorry. 2 other things that you really do need. You get one of these, A4 size, and laminate it, and also do the same with the varroa life cycle. If you have a good understanding of the life cycle of the bee and the varroa mite, it'll tell you why you are doing things and when you're doing it. Because it will give you insight into why we're doing what we're doing. Makes it all get sense to it.
You can download that stuff.
Yes, that, I can't remember where I got that from. It's in a,
There's lots of posters online, search life cycle of that.
the Varroa life cycle is in a number of publications. I can provide you with a list of that. I couldn't find one quickly enough to put it on the computer, but then it's not working anyway. That is from the beekeeper from up at the Mary Valley, that club up there, well-known chap, Valley Bees. He wrote a little book on bees. Applecraig. Yeah, that delightful book he wrote on bees. There's a lot of information in that for beekeepers. But he devised that, which I refer to it all the time. After inspecting a hive, you see something strange, you're trying to work out what's going on. If you go back and try and relate it to that, you often find the reason for what you're seeing. If it's an absence of something or presence of something, it might be you've lost the queen or something. Any other questions? Yeah.
Not so much a question.
I welcome comments from my colleagues.
We, as the mentors, we had a session with Tonya that was quite informative, and she was suggesting with the treatments that you'll have to use that require you to remove your honey supers, and that means you're reducing the size of the hive, so where are the bees going to go? Months ago there was a suggestion to double brood. Well, she's killed that idea because double the brood, you've got double the mite problem. So she was suggesting when and if you have to use a potent anti-mite and you've got to reduce the honey off your hive, have another box to put on that's painted bright yellow that becomes or red or any other colour that's distinctive to use as treatment only, and you put that on your top of your brood box, and have frames in that are also brightly coloured, and that are empty frames, empty foundation or even foundationless, a couple of foundationless frames. Now the purpose of that is for 8 weeks that hive has to be isolated or contained, and the empty frames give the bees something to do with the nectar they're bringing in by building wax and eventually probably starting filling it with some honey. But you keep that totally separate so that any frames that are in that likes honey, you can feed it to the brood, but you can't put it into your honey stores. The chemical won't affect the bees if it gets into the honey, but the chemical will get into the wax in the frames, and you can't use that for melting down to make other frames or foundation or anything. So that has to be totally separate and either kept in that situation or destroyed. So you need to start thinking about having equipment set aside for that purpose. And also she was suggesting at some stages to do a brood split, take all your capped brood out and put it into a nuke and treat that with the expensive chemical, which will be the ones that will penetrate the capped brood. Most of the chemicals won't get into the capped brood, they only treat the mite on the bees. So if you have a separate nuke that you can put capped brood into to do a potent treatment on. I hope that makes sense.
That's a very good point. It's something you could be doing now, preparing for that, getting boxes ready, have boxes ready for doing splits. Remember, swarm prevention is another means of preventing the spread of Varroa. So it's more important now than previously with Varroa in the neighbourhood. Any other points?
This is quite overwhelming actually for us. In fact, we have on the rod many times tell us how is the honey, and I know don't get chemicals needs to be used to treat the moths, treat the bees. How is our honey protected and we still love our honey? That it's pure, that it's raw, not organic. We don't know what they're feeding on, but you know, is it effective in any way?
It will all depend on which chemicals you're using. Some of them it won't matter too much at all, others it will. It's more of an issue with wax, because a lot of synthetics are lipophilic, means it's taken up by wax. So you definitely can't sell combed honey, but you can sell raw liquid honey. Now, the question of residuals will arise, and that's not something I've sorted out yet. I'm hoping it's not too much of an issue, because at the moment in Australia, it's not really possible on any scale to test for the residuals of these chemicals. It may have to be sent overseas, so the costs are enormous. But I know that the labs down south are gearing up to do residual chemical testing on honey. At the moment, there's no, as far as I know, there's no legislative requirement for us to have our honey tested before we sell it. That may change. But the biggest issue usually is with combed honey. You can't sell that if you've treated the hive. You have to assume it's in the wax forever. Don't feel overwhelmed, as always. We're always here to help you. I've tried not to get into too much detail today.
Thank you. Thank you so much, John. I do take that last point that it is quite overwhelming, that there's a lot of information. So what we are trying to do as a club is trying to filter through it all. John's giving us lots of important information for people who that might make a lot of sense to. And if it doesn't, don't be upset by that, because Linda is working through it with in the newsletter and giving us broken down information there. Lynn's putting together an action management plan. All you need to do right now, given that it's right here on the coast, is just keep testing. And then when you find that threshold, give us a call if you're not quite sure where to start. There's no way anyone's left alone. We're all going to have Varroa. The next 2 years, it's going to be a little bit challenging while we work it out, and then we'll be experts. So that's how I'm seeing it. There's a lot of information, but we do have experts working through that for us. So I am overwhelmed with you, but we don't need to be. We're going to work together. So, and thank you so much to everyone who's contributing and to everything John's doing for us as well.
We're in the same boat. None of us are Varroa now either. So when we get it, we'll be the first time.
Yeah, I keep saying it, but I think we're just lucky that we're the last country, so everyone else has made the mistakes and we can just filter through what works for us. So it's going to be that case of 12 beekeepers and 13 opinions with this stuff, and we're just going to work through it and find out what works, and then in a couple of years you'll know exactly what you like doing with your hives. So thank you so much for all of that. Yep. And always call Lynn when you hit that threshold if you're worried and you're not sure your next step, because she's going to help us connect with Varroa mentors. All right, I can smell sausages and they smell so good. So the barbecue's still going. Is there any thing happening in your hive that you want to talk about? Any questions that you've got? I know we always deal with Varroa lately, but there's other stuff going on in our hives as well. It's not the only thing, is the Varroa. Yes. Yes. No. Yes. Yes. Because of the weather. Yeah, because of winter. You know, we always get told don't touch your hives during winter because we've got to leave honey to keep the hive warm, to keep our hive fed. But we also don't want this to start warming up straight away and then it be so overwhelmed in there that they're going to swarm. So it's about really knowing your hive, I think it's freezing, but I always think it's freezing, but I don't think it's that cold at the moment. I think we're going to start warming up. So if you feel like you need to take a few frames out, you're more than fine to do that in this weather. It's definitely not as cold as it was a month ago, so it's going to start warming up. I feel like you can take make a bit of room if you need to. Maybe not take it all, but make a bit of room. I'm not cold. Anything else? Anyone got anything else going on? Okay.